Have you ever noticed how they always find their way back? The avoidant, the one who vanished without a trace, returns the moment your heart finally feels quiet. It happens softly, no grand apology, no confession, just a message, a view on your story, a silent presence that feels strangely familiar. And you ask yourself, why now? Why after all that silence, do they come back? Is it guilt, loneliness, or something deeper, something neither of you can name? Maybe it's not coincidence at all. Maybe it's energy, the kind that lingers long after words disappear. Because when an empath loves an avoidant, it's never just emotional, it's energetic. You don't just connect through touch or time, you connect through frequency. Even in silence, that bond hums beneath everything, in songs, in dreams, in moments when your chest tightens for no reason. It's the unseen current that pulls them back toward you, not because they're ready, but because your peace has become louder than their distance. They feel your stillness, they sense your detachment, and suddenly, they're reminded of what they lost. So if you've ever wondered why they always return, know this: it's not about control, it's about energy unfinished, an invisible thread that stretches across the silence, pulling two souls back into awareness, not for closure, but for realization. The story between an empath and an avoidant doesn't end in goodbye, it begins in what's left unspoken. You gave love they couldn't hold. You offered warmth to someone who mistook safety for danger, and when they pulled away, when the silence grew longer, you blamed yourself for caring too much. You kept replaying moments, trying to understand what you did wrong. But that's the truth most empaths never see. You didn't do anything wrong. You simply loved someone who didn't know how to stay. To a dismissive avoidant, closeness feels like exposure. It threatens the walls they've spent a lifetime building. So when they met your softness, your depth, your consistency, they didn't see comfort. They saw risk, because love to them means losing control. But you kept showing up anyway. You held space for them when they couldn't hold space for themselves. You listened when they went quiet. You stayed when they pushed away. You gave them something no one ever gave them before. A love that asked for nothing but presence. And still, they left. Not because they stopped feeling, but because feeling became too much. Your energy reached places their mind couldn't protect. And instead of surrendering, they escaped. Yet here's what they don't understand. Empaths don't vanish when the body leaves. Their energy remains. Their love, their calm, their warmth. It echoes. It lingers in the corners of memory, in the silence that used to feel safe, in the moments the avoidant thought they were finally free. Because you can't unfeel an empath. You can only try to forget what peace felt like, and fail. They may have walked away, but your presence still breathes in the spaces they run to. Your energy haunts their quiet moments. Your patience becomes their mirror. And one day that mirror starts to whisper, not of what they lost, but of what they weren't ready to receive. That's when realization begins. That's when the silence turns into memory, and memory becomes the tether, pulling them right back to the energy they once took for granted. The avoidant feels your pull, but resists it. They remember your softness, but fear what it awakens. Because deep down, your energy reminds them of everything they've buried, their unhealed tenderness, their forgotten capacity to feel. When you show love, they feel small. When you show peace, they feel chaos. Your calm exposes the storm they've been pretending isn't there. So they do what they've always done. They withdraw. They retreat into silence, mistaking distance for safety. But silence doesn't save them. It haunts them. Because every time they try to erase your energy, it finds a new way to echo. In dreams, in songs, in the quiet moments when their walls start to tremble. And you, the super empath, you sense it, even from miles away. You feel their energy shift, their thoughts brushing against yours in ways words never could. It's not madness, it's resonance. Two energies still trying to make sense of an unfinished story. You keep trying to let go, but the connection doesn't break. It bends. It stretches through silence, through time, through resistance, because somewhere, both of you are still holding the same invisible thread, pulling, resisting, remembering. You crave closure, they crave control. You want truth, they want peace, but only the kind that doesn't require vulnerability. So they sit in their solitude, convincing themselves they're free, while your absence starts to feel louder than your presence ever did. And you sit in your silence, trying not to feel them, but their energy keeps finding you, in flashes, in emotions that aren't yours, in the strange comfort of knowing they're still there. It's not obsession, it's energetic residue. Two souls still reacting to the same unspoken emotion, fear disguised as detachment, and love disguised as distance. Both of you are fighting the same battle, to feel without falling, to love without losing, to let go without forgetting. Because real bonds aren't broken by distance, they're tested by it. Time doesn't dissolve energy, it only reveals what was real beneath it. You start dreaming of them, not the way they were, but the way they felt. Their presence becomes a frequency your body still remembers. Sometimes it's subtle, a sudden calm in the middle of chaos, a song that hits different, a name that appears when your heart is finally still. And in that moment, something stirs inside you, a knowing that doesn't need proof. It's your intuition, remembering what your mind tries so hard to forget. Because love, real love, doesn't always vanish when the story ends. It lingers. It reshapes itself into memory, into energy, into a quiet recognition that someone somewhere is thinking of you too. You start to realize that silence isn't empty. It's alive. It holds echoes, emotions, reflections. Every time you think you're done feeling them, you feel a pulse again, faint, but familiar. A reminder that connections like this aren't accidents, they're mirrors, reflecting the lessons both hearts still need to learn. And so you stop fighting the memory, you stop forcing the forgetting, you simply breathe, because maybe the purpose was never to end cleanly, but to awaken something deeper, a version of you that understands love without needing to hold it. It's strange, isn't it? How distance can become its own kind of closeness. How silence can carry more truth than words ever could. Somewhere between remembering and releasing, you realize, the bond was never about possession. It was about awakening. And in that quiet knowing, you finally stop searching for signs. Because the sign is the feeling itself. When you finally stop reaching for them, something changes. Not in them, but in the energy between you. The pull that once drained you begins to flow back. The silence that once hurt you becomes your strength. Avoidants always thought they had control, by staying distant, by keeping emotions in check. But when your heart no longer chases, when your peace no longer bends to their patterns, they feel it. Your stillness becomes magnetic. Your calm becomes confrontation, because now, they can't define themselves through your reaction. They can only feel the absence of it. And that absence is loud. It echoes in the quiet moments they used to escape to. It makes them question if they misjudged what connection really was. You didn't lose them by letting go. You shifted the energy. You took back your power without saying a single word. That's the paradox. The less you do, the more they feel. Not because you're manipulating, but because your peace no longer feeds their avoidance. It exposes it. And that's when they start to return. Not to your message, not to your words, but to the calm they once ran from. Because silence, when owned, becomes the loudest form of self-respect. And the one who learns to master that silence is the one who finally breaks the cycle. The truth is, empaths and avoidants were never meant to destroy each other. They were meant to reveal what the other couldn't see. For the empath, love was always about giving, pouring endlessly, hoping presence could heal absence. For the avoidant, love was about survival, protecting the self from being consumed. Two hearts with the same longing, but opposite languages. And when they meet, it's not chaos by accident, it's growth by design. Because one learns what it means to stay, even when it hurts. And the other learns what it means to trust, even when it feels unsafe. Their connection was never a punishment, it was a mirror, reflecting everything each soul still needed to heal. The empath learns that love without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. The avoidant learns that control without vulnerability becomes loneliness. And somewhere in between that dance of pull and retreat, healing begins. It's not about who was right or who broke first. It's about recognizing that both were driven by fear, fear of losing control, fear of losing love. But love itself doesn't demand control. It asks for surrender, the kind that doesn't come from weakness, but wisdom. You start to realize this wasn't about fixing them or proving your worth. It was about remembering your own, because when you evolve from pain instead of reacting to it, the entire dynamic transforms. So if they ever return, it's not the same story starting again. It's a new chapter being written from awareness. And if they don't, that's still peace, because the connection already served its purpose. It taught balance. It taught boundaries. It taught that love isn't about holding on. It's about understanding when to release. And that realization is the quiet kind of healing most people never reach. Some nights, he scrolls through old messages, not to reply, but to remember. Your name appears on his screen like a ghost from a life he once tried to forget. He pauses, reads the words he once ignored, and for a moment, he feels something heavy, something unfamiliar. It's not longing, it's realization, the kind that comes too late. He remembers how you used to listen, not to fix, but to understand, how your presence softened his edges, without ever demanding he change. And now, in your silence, he finally feels what he once feared most, the emptiness he created. He wonders how someone so patient, so gentle, could leave without noise. No anger, no closure, no explanation, just peace. And that peace unsettles him more than your absence ever did, because for the first time, he sees what he ran from, not you, but the reflection you held up to him, a version of himself that wanted to love, but didn't know how. A man who mistook emotional safety for suffocation, who confused your calm for control, your love for danger. Now, every quiet moment feels like your echo, in songs, in dreams, in people who almost remind him of you, but none of them carry your stillness. None of them mirror his soul the way you did. He doesn't tell anyone. He just keeps replaying your absence in his mind, pretending it doesn't ache. But the truth is, it does, deeply, silently, and that's his karma, to finally feel what he made you feel, to sit in the same silence he once used to escape. He'll never admit it out loud, he'll just carry it, that quiet regret that lingers between every heartbeat, because losing you didn't happen the day you walked away, it happened the day he thought you never would. And now, in the stillness he once craved, he meets the part of himself he's avoided all along, the part that finally realizes, you were never the threat, you were the peace. So if they ever return, pause, not to rush, not to relive, but to remember. It's not proof that the love was real, it's proof that the energy between you was unfinished, a cycle waiting to close, not restart. You see, avoidants don't come back because they've changed overnight. They come back because your silence became their mirror, because the peace they once ran from now feels like home. But peace is sacred, and not everyone who touches it deserves to stay. So let them in only if your heart feels safe, not curious, only if your soul feels still, not restless. Because when peace calls you, it never comes with confusion. Sometimes the lesson isn't about reunion, it's about release, to love them and still walk away, to forgive them and still protect your boundaries. That's what healing looks like when it's real. You're not the same person they left. You've seen the power of your own silence, the strength of letting go without resentment. So if they return, let your calm speak louder than your words, because the real bond isn't about who circles back, it's about who finally learned to stay. And if that person is you, then the story has already ended the way it was meant to. You didn't lose them, you found yourself, and that's the kind of ending people never forget.